and record this so we can put it on our channel for you. All right, let's kick it off. I'm going to begin by sharing my screen. So one moment while I do that. And here we go. Okay, this is something that Harma and I taught last year. We did a business planning clinic in November of 2019 at SRAR. It was fantastic. It was attended by about 100 people, not just from our office, from around the Valley. And this really is a great way for you to understand the basics of the lead generation model. So I'm going to start with this and we'll go from here. Let me see if I can do this right. So bear with me. All right. All right, we're going to go through the ways to generate leads right now. We're going to first talk about the two types of people, met and not met. You hear me talk about this all the time when I'm coaching and when I'm talking. There are two distinguishing types of people, people you already know and people you don't know. For the group that you don't know, we refer to that as a farm. Okay, a farm is a group of people you don't know. Whether it's geographic or whether it's socio-demographic, these are people for the most part you don't know. Maybe you're in a yoga class. Maybe you go to a particular church. Maybe you're part of a BNI group. All right, you don't know all those people, but they are a farm. So not mets are people that you're trying to meet, and in most cases that's considered a farm. And people who are mets are people that you have met. So the mets break into three categories: your sphere, right? Family and friends, seller prospects, buyer prospects. For the purposes of this discussion, we're not going to talk about realtors and vendors, although they're very important sources, but we're just going to talk about buyer prospects, seller prospects, sphere of influence, past clients, and people that you've met in your farm. All right. Now, the biggest problem that agents have is once they met somebody, and the determination of met is either on the phone, in person, or you're having an email dialogue, an actual back and forth email dialogue. Those are the definitions of a met. All right. On the phone, in person, or a back and forth email dialogue. Okay. Once they become a met, they've got to go into some sort of system, right? And that's where everybody tends to have some challenges. And in the last class, I dropped a lead sheet in to the folder, and I will do it again in this folder, because at the end of the day, if you're making phone calls, you need to have lead sheets in front of you so you can scribble and write who you're talking to, as well as write more phone numbers and emails. Too many people are just putting the information either in their dialer or directly into the system without updating everything. It's very difficult to do that while you're calling. So please make sure you have lead sheets at home or at your office so that you are filling the lead sheets out as you go. And then when you're done with the day, then you have something to work with, all right? All right, I'm going to go through a couple of things here. The 80-20 rule, I always bring it up in every class. What is the one goal that will have the greatest positive impact in your career here? What is the one goal? What is the second goal that will have the greatest positive impact? And what is the third goal? So as we go through these goals, I want to talk about what is the single most important thing you can do in any given day. It's to lead generate, right? Even if you're super busy and you've got 3 escrows going on, that's fine, but you must find time during the course of your week to find new people and nurture the ones that you have. So we look at these 3 agents. We showed this at last year's class. Agent number 1 makes $75,000 a year. Agent number 1 lives in the San Fernando Valley, 5+ years of experience, and she works 40 hours a week. She has a 4.5-star review. Okay, that's agent number 1. Agent number 2 makes $250,000 a year. They're located in the San Fernando Valley, same 5+ years of experience, same 40 hours a week, and same 4.5-star review. Agent number 3 makes $800,000 a year. Same agent, 5 years of experience, works 40 hours a week, and has a 4.5-star review. What in the world could possibly be the difference between agent number 1 and agent number 2 and agent number 3? Does anybody want to take a crack at it and unmute themselves? Tell me the difference between agent number 1. At least tell me the difference between
Generation.
number 1 and 2. Can you tell me that? What about 1 and 2?
Follow up.
Okay,
Follow up.
sure, that's one of the things. What else? From a lead generation standpoint, like trying to get new leads, what do you think the difference is between the $75,000 person and the $250,000 person? Follow up for sure, but something more rudimentary.
Setting aside time to lead generate.
Thank you. Right. Agent number 1 who makes $75,000 a year is what we call a referral agent. Okay. They don't do any prospecting. They're just working their friends. They get some referrals and they wait for inbound stuff to happen. So they're kind of doing that E to P. They're just staying at a normal. They're talented. They're smart. They're personable. And when people call them, they do a deal. That's your referral agent, okay, who's not really doing a whole lot, not setting time to go out and prospect. They're just kind of taking what's coming in, right? The difference between them and that second agent who makes $250,000 a year is that second agent is actually doing some prospecting. They're setting aside some time. Maybe it's only 10 hours a week, but they're setting aside time to actually lead generate, right? In addition, they're good at following up. Whether they have a system or not, we don't know, but they're definitely good at following up, okay? And that is how they get to that level. So they're building their pipeline, they're staying in relationship, and they're actually doing some sort of conversion and follow-up. What about that third agent, 800,000? What in the world is different about them?
Can I say?
Go ahead, Paris.
They lead generate probably 5 days a week.
Oh, for sure. And what else? What are they using that the other two probably aren't?
Database,
I
database, database.
Right. Database, right? That there's no way that they'd be doing 800 without a database, right? There's no way. They have people in their system. They have a whole system for follow-up. They're doing their little postcards. They're doing their email blasts. They're really doing the marketing side of it, not just the prospecting side. They're firing on both. So the first person's probably not doing much prospecting. The middle person is doing prospecting, but the third person is doing prospecting and marketing, right? Both. That's what this whole class is about, right? Advanced prospecting and marketing. So I want to make sure that you understand that distinction. It's really important. Okay, so we're going to talk now about the systems model. And don't let this overwhelm you. We just want you to just understand basic stuff. How do you harness the power of your CRM, whether you're using Command or Top Producer or eEdge or whatever you're using? Whatever CRM you use, great. Just use something, right? Don't make your CRM complicated. We've talked about this many times to all of you, right? Don't put 25 different kinds of people in there. I've coached with agents who have so many different tags on someone, it gets overwhelming. You don't need to make it that complicated, okay? They're a buyer, they're a seller, they're a past client, they're a sphere. Sphere is a family or friend or colleague that hasn't done business with you, right? They're a farm or they're a farm met, okay? Remember the definition of farm met, everybody. If you're calling on a geographic farm, or you're calling an NOD farm or expireds, it doesn't matter what you're calling. If you have a conversation with someone in your farm and they have absolutely no interest in selling their home now or in the future, they're a met, farm met, okay? What that means is someday they are going to turn into business, but a lot of people blow off the people who say, I'm never going to sell. I have no interest in selling, thank you very much. You have to put them into a category. They're not a seller because they haven't raised their hand. So you can't call them a seller prospect. You call them a farm met. And the goal when you're doing farming, whether you're doing geographic or sociographic farming, is you're going to turn all of those farm names into farm mets. The more you meet in the farm, the better chances you have of those people. Use a couple of people that are on the call today. Paris, I don't want to embarrass you, but you're probably one of the best door knockers I've ever met, ever. you know, and you and L Jones probably rack up number 1 and 2 in the company. You know, Paris is amazing at her farming. She door knocks consistently, and she
Thank you.
might get 10 people that say, no, I'm never going to sell, but boy, does she put them in her system, and she stays with them. And they turn into business, right, Paris? 1, 2, 3 years later.
Yes. Last year, I converted someone I met in my farm after 3 years, listed her house and bought her a house. And someone in my farm gave me a listing outside of my farm. I even this year, I start calling my farm beginning of the Corona, someone that I met once, and she said, oh, we never gonna sell. She listed it, but not with me, with someone else. But you're so right, because they might tell you we never sell, but 6 months later, she was in the market.
Right. Thank you, Paris. Appreciate
You're
that.
welcome. Thank you.
Absolutely. So the Mets are critical, and you have to nurture those Mets. Okay. So loading the past and preparing for the future, entering your new leads into your database, building your pipeline, and doing the numbers. And that's all you've got to do. Basic groups of people and communicate effectively with them. Okay. So the fortune is in that follow-up. Okay. The second thing we're going to do next week is to create a purposeful schedule. Now, many of you have seen my productivity zone chart. It's in one of the folders. If you forgot about it, make sure you know that you always want to stay in the green and blue zones, okay? Be aware of the activities you're doing every day, the dollar productive versus the transactional and administrative, right? Create repetition for your activities, be accountable to your calendar, and stick with it. The agent with the most disciplined schedule has the most freedom. The agent with the most disciplined schedule has the most freedom. Book out your 2020 calendar for the rest of the year. Layer in your zones. If you need help with that, you're going to learn it next week. Okay? We're going to actually share the screen with you on a calendar, whether you use a Gmail calendar or you use an Outlook calendar. Hopefully you don't use an iCalendar, but if you do, that's fine. But you want to make sure you have a calendar and it's laid out between now and December 31st, okay? And then all you have to do is re-up it for next year. Focus on the most difficult prospecting activities in the morning, and then create your system for post-meeting follow-up, okay? And this is how you create your balanced life. But if you don't do prospecting, then you have an up and down life, and you have an up and down income. It's super important. The fortune always happens. Remember, as you're prospecting now, you're going to see the results of what you do today in the next quarter, okay? All right, so first I want to make sure, and I've talked about this before, but I want to make sure everybody is very clear about the difference between prospecting and marketing. What's the difference? And do you need one or the other or both? Okay, there's a lot of schools of thought, right, about that. Now, anyone want to give me the definition, the main difference between prospecting and marketing? Unmute yourself. Anybody? There's some fundamental differences between prospecting and marketing. Go ahead and unmute yourself, Paris. Unmute yourself. Hit the unmute on your computer. You are muted. There you go.
So marketing is while you're sending flyers and you don't have control over that. Prospecting, you're actually reaching out or calling or knocking their door and you have a conversation with them.
Thank you. That's the exact definition. So marketing, the definition of marketing is send out. Send out. I'm sending out a postcard. I'm sending out a flyer. I'm sending out an email. I'm sending out a mass text. That's marketing. Okay. Marketing is send out. Prospecting is call or meet. Got it? Very, very, very important. On the phone or in person. That is prospecting. You have to balance both. Because if all you do is prospecting, you're going to get a little burned out. And if all you do is marketing, it's going to be expensive. So you have to balance both. And you have to pick and choose when you're going to do what. Okay, that we need a balance of both, prospecting and marketing. So for example, posting on your social media, that's marketing, right? Sending out an email blast for your new listing to all the buyers in your database, that's marketing, right? Making phone calls to every buyer in your database, touching base with them and telling them you sent them some new stuff, that's prospecting. So be clear about that. Prospecting is phone and in person. Marketing is sending out. whether it's traditional, hard copy collateral, or whether it's digital, okay? You must have both. That's why in our schedule, we layer both in, okay? Now, direct marketing, like digital marketing and social media, you integrate that with inbound marketing. Now, what would inbound marketing be? If I'm sending out an email flyer, what would be the call to action that makes it be inbound? Anybody? It's a tag. It's some sort of call to action. Call me today or click here to find out more. Inbound marketing is where you're inviting somebody to respond, right? Or if you're doing a paid social ad through command, right? And you get the lead generation forms coming back with that data. Somebody's clicking on that link or that flyer to find out more, right? So it's really, really important that you make your phone ring. And it's the combination of the prospecting and the marketing that makes your phone ring. That's inbound marketing. All right, remember that every name in your database is worth $3,000. Okay, every name, even if they're your brother or your old friend from high school, every name is worth $3,000 because 1 out of 4 will be doing business. 1 out of 4 people in your database either is going to buy or sell real estate or has an immediate family member who's going to buy or sell real estate. Okay, so very, very important that you guys understand that concept. So if you had 1,000 people in your database in the Met side, you've got a $300,000 pipeline. All right, very, very important. All righty, so let's go to the next thing I'm going to share with you. I'm going to close this one and I'm going to open this one. All right, so let's talk about how do we set all this stuff up? How do we make it happen? Okay. All right. Here are 9 possible boxes in which I'd like you to play ball. You don't have to play ball in all of them. Eventbrite is just in there in the event that you're doing any type of an invitation to something. We're not in that world at this moment, but when open houses come back, it's really great to do an Eventbrite invite for that. But anything where you're inviting people. But if you take a look at these 9 boxes, you have to be doing something in all of these 9 boxes. The middle box is your database, whatever your database is, okay? Where I have command, that's the center point of everything. Up in the upper left, it says Google Test. And I have the guide. It's in the Google Drive. There is a guide that you need to go out and test yourself with. And you need to make sure that you have enough testimonials on all the areas you need to have testimonials on realtor.com. Zillow. You want to make sure that you appear when you type in your name or the name of your brand, that you appear pretty much on all of page 1 of Google. That's really important. For those of you who have a common name, right, you have to have the word realtor connected with it or real estate connected with it. And if you need help and tips on that, Zach can help you with helping you get higher up. We not only want to be the first answer in Google, you want to be the whole page, okay? That's the Google test. You want to go to all the different channels and make sure that you are appearing as high up as possible. All right, very important. YouTube. If you don't have a YouTube channel, it's important that you get one. Just go build a YouTube channel with your name, real estate, or your name of your brand, whatever it is, real estate, and then have your mother and your brother and friends subscribe to it, just so you get the channel up and running. Record your first test video. Okay, have someone record you, do a pretend tour, or do a quick little pitch about the market. YouTube is very, very powerful, and you can post those links in an email. You can post those links on a landing page in command. You can post those links on social media. It's really important. Okay, SMS text. Mass texting is going to start to become very, very popular. It already is. We have the ability for you guys to do mass texting through the Twilio app and command. Texting is a very good way to communicate with people that you've already have relationship with in the database. Direct mail, we've talked about this. There are a couple of kinds of people that should get a postcard from you every month. The most important, even if you're not a farmer, The most important people in the world should be your past clients. If you're new to the business and you don't have past clients, then you can start mailing to either your farm or your sphere. But past clients and seller prospects are the two most important groups that have to get a postcard from you every month. Even if you don't have a sale, you can do something. We have amazing content on Michael Lewis Marketing. General, do you want to buy, do you want to sell cards? Okay, so there's lots of content, no shortage of content for direct mail. Website landing pages. This is becoming very popular, and we have the ability in Command, in the consumer tab down on the bottom left in Command, you can create a landing page for anything. You can promote a listing, you can promote mortgage rates, you can promote anything you want. You can add buttons for people to click, and then they can get in touch with you. A landing page is very popular. You've been given the technology in Command to create your own website for just about anything. You can create a landing page and you give it a name, and it's a live website, and you can send it out in email. It's pretty cool. So a landing page is a call to action, and inside the landing page, there's a little lead form at the bottom where they can find out more by putting their name, phone number, and address in there, email address. So very great ways to create inbound marketing. You can promote someone else's listing in the office with their permission by creating a landing page, sending it out. Okay, great way to get inbound marketing. Down at the bottom right, email marketing. It's got to be part of what you do. Every week you need to send an email out, right? And you don't have to send it out to the same people. You can send it out in the calendar that we talked about in previous classes, right? Week 1, the sellers can get it. Week 2, the buyers can get it. Week 3, your past clients, and week 4, your sphere, okay? Or if you have a farm, you can integrate the farm in there with email marketing. Social media sites, you've got to have your social media up and running. Make sure that they're all integrated in Command. If you're using Command, Sarah or Zach can help you with that, and they'll be making sure that your URLs are all where they belong. This is really important. This is an overall. Once you have all of these firing off at the same time, you can't help but getting inbound calls. You just can't help it. It will just happen. Leads will be coming in faster than you know it. But many of you aren't playing in any of these spaces. So you're frozen with, what do I do? Rather than start with one thing at a time, right? So if you're overwhelmed by it, just start with one thing. Say, I'm going to send an email out once a week to different groups in my database. Okay, that's great. That's a great way to just start. It takes half an hour to do it, but you have to do it. And you have to do it on the same day every week. You can't be willy-nilly about it. You've got to be in a schedule. All right. It's very, very important that each of these items gets a touch every week. Create a video once a week. Get that content out there. These are simple ways that you're going to get inbound marketing. All right. Very, very simple. All right. Moving on. All right. So the Google test, I already talked about that. Check the ranking of yourself. All right. Create all your links and reviews. And if clients are having a hard time and you're with a client and you want to get a review from them, get with them in person and help them. You know, if they're not writers, you can help them, but it has to happen from their email. Your agent websites, your blog posts, this is really easy to do, your social media, and your YouTube channel. We just talked about all that. This was all that technology setup. Do one thing at a time, until you feel comfortable. Then add the next thing, then add the next thing until you have all of it going on, okay? Reference all the sites on all your direct mail and email marketing, okay? This is really, really important. So I really want you to take it one piece at a time, all right? And build one of these things at a time. I think it's super important for you to understand that. And that's what will make the phone ring. So all these things that are here, none of these things in these colors are prospecting, are they? None of them. All of these are marketing. So I wanted to start with the easy stuff, which is these things help you generate business in a very passive way. But every one of these things would have a call to action. Call me today at this number. Email me here. Click here for more information. These are all very passive, direct marketing ways of getting inbound leads. Okay, and then what you do with the leads is critical, of course. All right, so before we continue, I want to open it up to questions. Unmute yourself if you have a question about marketing. Unmute yourself if you have a question.
Veronica, I have a question for the folks on the call. Has anyone used that thing that Mark has talked about, and Serena, about the slide dial? Where you're
Many people have used it.
doing a phone call to your database.
Has anyone made use of slide dial broadcast? It's fabulous.
This is Christine. So I have.
Okay.
I blasted out to people that I had a listing and introduced the virtual tour and all that. So it's hit and miss,
Mhm.
but it gives you exposure.
It's a great thing that you can do to groups of people at a time to promote. As long as you don't overuse it, of course, right? You want to be really careful about that. You don't want to overuse it, but it's absolutely something that you can use once a month for each of the groups in promoting a listing you have or anything. It's just that it's that connection, right? And it's a great tool to have, great tool to have. It doesn't replace the direct call, but it really is a great way to get the word out on something, especially if you're connecting it with an email blast, right? And a social media post. It's awesome. Okay. You can't see the results right away, but people in our office have gotten listings from them, right? Because you have to connect it with the holistic view of everything. You've got an email blast that goes out about a listing. You do a slide dial broadcast, right? And you post it on your site. Of course, you're going to get some response from that, right? But one thing without the other doesn't really work. You know, you get hit and miss results. So again, be consistent. Just do one thing at a time until you've mastered it. So you say, okay, fine. I'm going to do email blasting once a week. I'm going to get this down and I'm going to do it at the same time every week, right? That's a system. Don't get a hair, you know, and say, hey, let's send something out today. Be consistent. You take a listing and you go, I'm going to get it out right now. No, get it out on the day that you're supposed to send out the emails. You understand that professional email marketing systems pick certain days that they send things out. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but when you get spam from certain companies, it's actually coming out on a very specific day. It's not random. So whatever day works for you, I prefer Mondays or Fridays, but whatever day works for you is great. But be consistent. Say, okay, I promise I'm going to make sure I do an email blast once a week. Okay. And then week 1, I'll do my sellers. Week 2, I'll do my buyers. Week 3, I'll do my past clients. And week 4, I'll do my sphere. Okay. And if you have a farm in there, you put that in with the seller prospects. So then everybody just gets an email blast once a month on something, and then they get a holiday email blast. Remember that? Everybody gets a holiday email blast, right? And I know many of you did your Labor Day blast. That was great with Michael Lewis, and many of you have not, right? Why did you miss that opportunity to do the email blast on Labor Day? Don't do that. Don't miss the opportunity to do the Thanksgiving blast, right? Those that want to put Halloween or fall, autumn, we have set your clocks back. You know, the set your clocks, right? We're going to be getting into that first week in November. Don't forget to do that. Michael Lewis Marketing has the most beautiful, beautiful stuff. Simple, easy jumbo postcards, digital, gorgeous. You put them in, you send them out. They're really easy. If you need help with that, see Sarah, she can help you, or see Zach, okay? But be consistent, all right? And then when you're consistent, you're like, okay, I'm proud of myself. I'm sending out an email every week. Now let me move to step 2, right? Social media. I notice so many of you are so random with your social media, so random. You've got to be purposeful, whether you're posting daily, weekly, twice a week, I don't care, minimum weekly. Don't be random about your social media. Don't do that. Post it on a consistent basis, unless it's a holiday, right? Or some specific event. And then move on. After you're consistent with your social media, you're consistent with your email, awesome. Let's move on to YouTube. And let's create a video every week. It could be 30 seconds. It could be 60 seconds. I prefer a minute. I think a minute is great. I think you start going into 5-minute YouTubes, you're getting crazy. So don't do too much on that. If you're doing a tour, that's great. But again, be careful about that, right? Helpful hints when staging your home. You can do a video on that, right? So really then start making that happen until you're doing a video every week. Now you got that down. Do you understand? Layer it slowly, layer it in. And then once a month, no matter what, you need to send out some postcards, right? To whoever that group is that's going to get them based on your budget and your affordability. So if you're doing a farm, great, farm. If you're doing a farm and past clients and seller prospects, that's the best, right? Seller prospects, past clients have to get a postcard. And if you did it and you did it consistently, you'll notice the referral calls coming in. You'll notice the referral calls, right? So super, super important. These things are happening in the background. All right. Marketing isn't a thing that you can like grab onto and say, I made a call and I got a listing. It doesn't work that way. Marketing is a holistic view. So when you're doing all these marketing things, all of a sudden you get a call, you get an email, you get a lead in, because it may have come from a specific channel, but it was the overall that was making it happen. So marketing has to be done consistently. And that's the key. And too many people do it, they stop, they forget, and then it goes out the window. Therefore, your results are inconsistent. You know, there are some incredible agents on the boulevard that I've had the honor of coaching. Some of them are so dialed in. I mean, these are over $1 million a year GCI, $2, $3, $4 million a year GCI players, and they're so consistent. They're so consistent. And so that's going to lead me to my next conversation, which is, how do you integrate the consistency with the prospecting? Okay. So we just spent 20 minutes talking about marketing. Okay. Now let's talk about prospecting. All right. You must find time every week to take action and reach out to people. You must. Okay. Now, those of you who have been doing an amazing job at marketing will find that the leads are coming in so fast you can't even convert them. Okay. Because if you're doing marketing consistently, eventually calls are going to come in, eventually. So you're converting, and your prospecting is this big game of conversion. But don't be fooled, because if you're not doing any outbound, direct calls, direct communications with people, then you're going to be just relying on the marketing, and you got to be careful about that. All right. So can somebody give me prospecting activities that are not the obvious? Does anyone want to unmute themselves and tell me about a prospecting activity that's not obvious? One that might not too many people do, or something you don't think about? Is Eliza on this call? Eliza Tessar, are you on this Zoom? I can't see everyone here. Don't know if she's on. No, she's not. Okay. I love Eliza and Bonnie, the Mulholland Group. Awesome team. You know, Eliza is probably the most brilliant birthday party prospector I've ever met, right? She's amazing. She has 2 beautiful little girls, goes to birthday parties. Obviously in COVID, they haven't been doing that, but the point is that every time she goes to a social event, she comes back with a buyer or seller on Monday morning, every time. So that's something that we take for granted, right? And remember, our current COVID status isn't going to remain this way forever, okay? So we need to get out of that thinking of, oh, well, I'll never be able to see people in person again. There is going to be a time when we'll kind of ease ourselves back into norm. But the point is that if you're having a social event, or you're attending some sort of an event, whether it's on Zoom or whether it's in person, you need to be having part of your little prospecting hat on your head, right? You need to be the realtor of choice at the party. You need to be the person who knows what's going on and talking about investing and wealth building. That makes you a beacon for everyone wanting to hear what you have to say, right? And we remember, we don't talk swap meet realtor talk, right? Not swap meet realtor. Market's great. That's swap meet realtor talk, right? Don't say that. Well, the market is actually very strong right now. You know, even though we'll probably see a little bit of, issues next year, we really have people that are wanting to invest in their future and build wealth. And that's the long-term play, right? Owner-occupied purchases. Remember, we said there's no such thing as timing the market. When you find the right house in the right neighborhood, are you going to worry about timing the market? The perfect house shows up with the pool in the neighborhood you've been waiting for, and you're going to worry about timing the market? People that do that on owner-occupied obviously don't care about where they want to live, right? But to me, location's super important. So if I want to live in a particular area, I'm going to wait until that right property shows up and I'm going to buy it, given the right circumstances. So owner occupied purchases aren't about timing the market. Non-owner occupied purchases could be, right? You're looking for the deal. You're looking for the deal in the right area that you would like to purchase in. So you're always talking to people in social gatherings about wealth building and about purchasing real estate as long-term investment. So parties and social events are a prime place where you start to build leads. And all you have to do is make sure you have business cards with you. Every time you're at a party or a social event, please have a business card with you. I always have them handy, right in my purse, right? If you're a male, you carry a little business card holder in your pocket, right? Well, let me give you my card. Do you have a card? And if they say no, oh, great. Well, let me just get some info from you. Always ask to trade cards, right? With somebody. Some people carry business cards on them. Some people don't. Some people don't even have business cards. But always give your card out and always do a follow-up. Handwritten note, email. It was so awesome to meet you at the party on Saturday. Love to get together for you with coffee in the future, right? Something to just connect with them. You can send them a little card. You can send them an email. It doesn't matter. And put them in the database. So if they're a friend of a friend of a friend that you met at a party, just put them in the database as Sphere. If they have no real estate need, put them in the database as Sphere. And remember the conversation you have to kind of ascertain where they are. While you're talking about wealth building and real estate holdings, you're going to find out where they live. Do they rent or own? You make those positive comments. Remember the banter that goes back and forth? And you find out everything about them, where they live, whether they rent or own, where they work, what the jobs are, what their future goals are. Remember Ford? Family, occupation, recreation, and dreams, right? So you really want to engage with someone, and that's all you got to do. It's that first meeting at the party, and then all of a sudden they're in your sphere, and they'll get your once a month email blast, and now you start becoming part of their sphere of business influencers. So, and all of a sudden you'll get a call from someone that you met at a party 3 years ago, and they're ready to buy. Okay, that's how it works. That's how it works. So prospecting isn't just cold calling and door knocking. Prospecting happens in any social environment that you're in any situation that you're in. You always have your conversion hat on, right? And whether you're converting somebody in an open house, whether you're converting somebody at a party, whether you're converting somebody on a phone call, or whether you're converting somebody in a face-to-face. Those are all prospecting activities. And you need to make sure you're layering in enough of them. Now, does someone want to unmute themselves and talk about their fear of cold calling? Who would like to unmute themselves and talk about it?
Hate cold calling.
Hey, Sonia. Sonia. Well, you're at a point in your life where, you have 32 years behind you of so many clients. You have thousands of past clients. And I think with you, it's more of a technology thing, right? Getting the system going so that those past clients are hearing from you, right? Because you have such a huge
I do, but I'm going to force myself to do it because when I first got into real estate, I did everything. I cold called, I knocked on doors, and it all worked, and it was all good. It was all very rewarding. And throughout the years, I got lazy because I started getting referrals and I got sloppy. So now my phone doesn't ring, which is concerning. So I'm going to put all that back in place. I'm working on it.
I love that, Sonia. Thank you for sharing that. That's really great. I appreciate that. So she describes what a lot of people go through, and she did it at the beginning of her career. And then she got into her career, became super successful, and then you stopped doing that. I get it. We all suffered from some of that in our lives when we get successful, but it's so easy. What's the worst thing that can happen to you? People don't just slam down the phone. They don't. It happens once every, 12, 13 calls. You'll get someone that just hangs up. Don't get worried about it. It's all about the big why. If your big why is strong enough about why you want the freedom of finance, you will not worry about what the person's going to say on the other end. The other thing is, make sure you have a great script. I apologize. Make sure that gets turned off. Sorry about that. Didn't mean to do that. Make sure you have a great opening script. Don't make your script too long, right? And for those of you who ever watched the Harma team, right? All of you guys on the Harma team, you're the best cold callers. You know, very clean script, right? Hi, is this Mr. Jones? Oh, well, hi, this is Veronica from Keller Williams Realty. How are you today? And they'll say, what do you need? Or they'll say, what do you need? You know, they'll be kind of like a little short with you. I'm just calling to find out if you might be interested in selling your home now or in the future. Or our office just recently closed a home over on Hatteras, and we have a lot of buyers looking in this neighborhood, which is true. Would love to know if you've been considering maybe selling your home now or in the future. And they'll say, oh no, we're never gonna sell our home. Oh, I totally understand. You're in such a great neighborhood. See how I'm just gonna keep the conversation moving. But it's a really simple, hi, John, this is so-and-so from Keller Williams Realty. I'm your local neighborhood realtor. We just recently sold a home over on such and such street, and we have a lot of buyers looking in this neighborhood. Would you consider selling your home now or in the future? I said now or in the future. Some people will say, would you consider selling your home in the near term, right? Whatever you want to say, it's a simple script, but you got to get your sentence out. Introduce yourself. We just recently sold a home in your neighborhood. Our office sells so many homes. I guarantee you'll find a sale somewhere in the neighborhood. You can't say I if it's not your listing. We just recently sold a home in your neighborhood, and we have a lot of buyers looking in this area. Would you consider selling your home? Have you considered selling your home now or in the future? And then they say what they're going to say. And believe it or not, 1 out of 10 calls, you actually get someone who is contemplating selling in the next year. It's amazing. You have 1 out of 10 calls. So if you can start slow, start with 10 calls. 10. And then the next week build up to 12 and then 15. But don't just call, for an hour or so. Give yourself a goal, because if you call for an hour, then you're like, oh, I don't want to do this. If you give yourself, highlight on your little list what you're going to call, get through all those calls. And then fill out your lead sheet with the results. And then what's the follow-up to that? And this is where everybody really, really, really blows it. After I've hung up the phone, let's say I made 10 calls today. I got courage. I made 10 calls. I have 9 people that will never sell their home, and 1 person who might be thinking about it this next year. Okay, so I got 10. Or maybe I have 2 voicemails and 1 person interested and 7 not interested, okay? Now, it's now time to fill out the lead sheets, because you might be running to an appointment, or maybe you got to pick up the kids, or maybe whatever you got to do. You must finish the administration of these calls. You can't just do the calls and run out the door. You have to put these people in the database, whether you're going to do it now or tonight or on the day that you're scheduled to do it. But you cannot just wrap it up and call it a day. It's not going to do enough good. You put the energy out there, now capture it, right? You put the effort out there. By putting the effort out there, you've put the energy out there. So something's going to come back. The problem is I see so many people calling, and I'm like, okay, so where are the people that said no? They can't find them. You know why? They're in the dialer, or they're sitting in another system that they can't look at them and say these are seller mets. Okay? So if they said no, they're a seller met. I met them on the phone, but they don't want to sell. But if they're thinking that maybe they're going to sell in the next year-ish or so, make them a seller prospect, okay? So put them in the database, tag them, go into the description, describe everything about the conversation, and then send the follow-up email. It was a pleasure speaking to you today, right? But in addition to the follow-up email, don't forget the hard copy. Whether you're doing a handwritten note, you're sending your beautiful little book, your listing book, or whether you're doing a cute little letter template that you've made. It was such a pleasure speaking to you this morning. Attached, please find a little bit about what my team does to get top dollar. Hold on to it, keep it handy. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Now you've gotten collateral material out into the mail. Email and collateral. It's critical. And if you're on a super tight budget, then get yourself some cute little note cards, right? Or just make your letterhead in Microsoft Word and then send out a little letter. And if you talk to 7 people who said no, you're going to send out 7 little letters or 7 little note cards. That will change the dynamic of your prospecting, right? But people don't do it. And so the email and the sending something out is critical. They've got to connect the phone call, because when you call back in 6 months, they're not going to remember who you are. Okay? So seller Mets are gold mines, but people just drop it. They talk to 7 people today and then they never do anything with the person. So make sure they get into the database with all the notes. Person said they're never going to sell. They're going to leave the house to their kids. Whatever it was that conversation was, it's critical. They're not a prospect. Only that one person was a prospect. Now that one person, how's that conversation going to go? If they said, well, actually, Sonia, we might be selling next year when my son graduates high school, next June. What would you say?
I'll say, great. Would you like me to run the comps and see what your house is worth, just to give you an idea? Preliminarily, no obligation.
Very good, Sonia. Excellent. Exactly what you say. So if they have even the slightest interest, you've got to say, well, great, I'd love to give you a complimentary market analysis of what your home is worth right now. Is that okay? I would love to get that out to you. Or I can drop it off, right? I always offer to drop it off at the house, right? Now,
They will say yes. And then
most
the
people say
second
yes.
thing, well,
Yeah.
why wouldn't they? They want to know the value anyway. If you say it's
Absolutely.
free. And the next thing I would say is, numbers, I can only see so much from numbers. I'd love to stop by and actually see your house so I can give you the pluses that you deserve to have, because there's adjustments and comps and, based on many factors, it's probably maybe worth more than I can see from numbers. I'd like to stop by. They'll usually say yes.
Excellent, Sonia. That's correct. They will usually say yes.
Mhm.
Very rarely will somebody say, no, don't bring it by. Very
Right.
rarely. Usually they'll say, yeah, sure. And I always used to tell them when I door knocked, hey, if I can see the inside of the house, I could actually give you an exact number, like
Right.
you said, with all the pluses. And they'll say, come on in, right? Or they'll say, sure, if you want to drop by, but I'm not ready until June. I totally understand. I just want to give you a real number that is an accurate number for today. And then we'll update it when we get closer to June. And they will usually say, sure, if you want to drop it by, that's fine. Okay. And I said, well, is it okay if I drop it off this afternoon? Great. Will you be home? Wonderful. And it's amazing how many appointments you get with people.
Yeah, they'll say yes. And don't ever say, so I can make adjustments for the negatives. Don't say that. Just
No.
say all the pluses.
Very good. Anybody else have a comment about that? Okay, great. Well, it's super important that you understand that nothing bad is going to happen to you. Nothing bad. But the reason why you're doing it's got to be more important than your excuse, right? So I want to make X number of dollars this year. And if you want to make X number of dollars a year, it only takes a little bit, just a little bit. People think it takes 4 or 5 hours of calling. It really doesn't, unless you don't have a script and you're not consistent with what you say. That opening sentence is critical. It's got to be the same on every call. The opening sentence. Hi, I'm so-and-so from Keller Williams Realty. I'm your local neighborhood realtor. We recently sold a home in the area. We have lots of buyers looking in your neighborhood. Or you can just say, we have lots of buyers looking in this area. Love to know if you're considering selling now or in the future. No, I'm never going to sell. Oh, well, I totally understand. What a great neighborhood. How many years have you been in the house? I'll always ask them that the minute they say no. How many years have you been in the house? It starts the conversation. We've been here 30 years. Well, that's wonderful. Good for you. Well, it's such a nice neighborhood. I'd love to see if there's any possibility that I can stay in touch with you, or you can offer them a CMA. Even the people that say, I'm never going to sell. If it's okay with you, Mr. Jones, I'd love to give you an evaluation of what your home is worth. I can drop it off for you. No, I don't need that. Okay, well, no problem. If you ever decide that you want something, just give me a call. I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye. And that's it. And then you still give them something. You still send something, not an evaluation. They don't want it, but at least a thank you for having spoken, right? And that's all it takes. And as you build that up, 10 calls a day, 7 no's, 1 yes, 2 voicemails, you'll be shocked at how big your seller Mets gets, right? And then all you have to do is make sure they're getting the email blast. And if you can afford to send them postcards, great, because they will turn into business. They absolutely will. But for sure, the people that said they're interested have to get postcards from you. Otherwise, you'll find that they'll list with someone else. right, down the road. So it's really important that you understand that prospecting's not that scary. And then once you get into it, you actually want to do it. Like you miss it if you're not doing it. You'll actually say, well, I've got to get my prospecting in this week. And I'm not advocating that you have to do 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. However, you do have to get about 15 hours a week in. That's a combination of brand new people and follow-ups with existing people and buyers. So the whole thing together, right? You want to be able to get enough of that in. Buyer prospecting is super easy, right? There's nothing to it. It's sending them an email, it's calling them and texting them. It's so easy. Hi, John. Attached, please find the new listings in Sherman Oaks this week. Take a look at the list. Let me know which ones you want to see. Hi, John. Just sent you a list of new listings in Sherman Oaks. Text them and then voicemail them. It is so easy to do buyers. Buyers are just very, very simple. Where people really fall down on buyers is, first of all, they don't convert them to begin with. They don't ask the right questions, right? My open house script. But the open house script is used for any buyer. It's not just for open houses. It's to find out where are they looking, have they been approved, what's their price point, where they want to stand in price. Great, all right. And then you can have somewhere to start. And once you get them to see the first house, typically you've got them, right? Once you get them to see the first house and you're in person, you've got them. So buyer prospecting is super simple compared to seller prospecting. Seller prospecting takes more nurture, more time. And so you have to really start building that pipeline, knowing that in the United States, generically, 6 out of every 100 people are going to do something this year. 6 out of every 100 people are going to do a transaction this year. And 1 out of 4 has somebody in their family that's going to do a transaction. So if you know that 6 out of 100 people are absolutely going to buy or sell this year, doesn't that inspire you to build that database up? 6 out of 100 are going to do something. Don't you want to make sure it's with you? Right? So please just take the time to do it. And next week, we're going to lay out a schedule for all of you so that you can put it in your Gmail, your Outlook, or your iCalendar and really start to live it. And I'm going to give everybody until October 1st, because this class goes today, next Thursday, and then the following Thursday. And all of you by October 1st need to be realistic and living your calendar. Because if you're living your calendar, you're going to have a ton of business. Remember, energy out, energy in. That's how it works. If you're going to put effort out into the universe is going to reward you. Absolutely. But if you decide you want to sit in your house and do nothing, then you're not going to get what you're looking for. You've got to get out there and meet people and talk to people. Don't forget to memorize your data, memorize your MLS, be the fiduciary. If you don't know the answer, just say, you know what, I'll get you some information on that. I'll email that to you. If you don't know the answer, don't fake that. Just say, I'll get that information to you today. What's a good email address? I'll send you everything, right? So it's really important that you connect. And if you connect, and you don't talk like a swap meet realtor, and you speak in really strong business terms, and you have a great personality, and they see that you care, right? They see that you care. That's the most important thing, and you will convert them. But the act of prospecting should not be a scary thing. It's just a normal thing. Don't worry, no one's gonna shoot you over the phone. It's fine. The worst that'll happen is somebody hang up the phone. It's fine. And always have compassion when cold callers call you. I'm sure many of you do, right? When somebody calls me and they're cold calling and I have absolutely no need for the product now or any time in my life, I'm still going to be nice to them and thank them so much for calling. And when that cold caller hangs up the phone, send them a blessing that they get business today, right? Right? So if you have a cold caller calling you, they're just doing their job. They're just doing what they're supposed to do. I mean, some people are a little aggressive, so you have to be careful, but always, always hang up the phone in a nice way when someone calls you, right? Because you're the person calling next week, right? So it's really important that you do that. So prospecting is the act of reaching out. Marketing is the act of sending out. You get the difference, right? And we need both in our plan. So until next week we're going to lay out the schedule. I'm going to share my screen with you, and I'm going to do a Gmail calendar, and we're going to share the screen, and we're going to use our little colors, and you can follow along on the class, and it's going to change your life. If you lay out the schedule and you follow the schedule, it's going to make all the difference in the world. But don't forget, use lead sheets. It's because you're a busy person in life. You've got family, you've got other things to do in life. You make sure you use lead sheets so that you remember that those people need to get into the system, right? And then throw the lead sheets away or put them in a plastic box and throw it in your garage. But it's important that you get them into the database. They're going to do you no good in a notebook. They're going to do you no good in a task list. It's not going to do you any good in writing. It needs to be in digital form so you can communicate in multiple ways. All right, before we end the day, does anyone have any questions?
Veronica, I have a quick question. You and Sonia did a great job of going over that seller prospect kind of script when you say, hey, they're not interested, so you let them know, I'd love to share an assessment evaluation. The moment where Sonia mentioned that you can tell them, well, this is only an assessment, so, I can only assess it so much from the outside. When you're ready, I'd love to see the inside of your home. My question is, do you still say that if they're not ready to sell now? Do you still say that statement?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I can't tell you how many houses I walked into and I didn't get the listing for 3 years. Hundreds. I walked into a house, I gave them an evaluation. I gave them a good evaluation at the time. I kept them on my postcards every month and my emails, and I got a listing 1 year later, 2 years later, 3 years later. Absolutely.
So you just say, basically, if you don't mind rephrasing that statement, it's basically saying this is only an assessment. I can only assess so much from the outside. Then what's the next part?
Well, Sonia, you did a beautiful job of saying, if I can see the inside of your home, I can look at the pluses that would actually probably make the home more valuable. So if I can see the inside, I can see what you've done to it. I can give you a better evaluation. If there's a possibility, I'd love to just stop by and take a quick look.
I was kind of sloppy in my language, but you might want to say something more elegant. Like, I'd love to see all the improvements or all the great features that you might have, because that will adjust the value upwards. And I'm sure, looking at the comps, they're just numbers. I can give you fair market value based on the numbers. But if I could see all the great, fabulous features in your home, something more elegant. But I was just mumbling because it's just us. But yeah, you want to get that language right. But most of them would love to know the value of their home. And if you say that you would love to see all the great features in their home, they'll probably take pride in showing it to you. They love to show off their house. I mean, it's only because of this pandemic that most people don't want anybody to see their house. But if they have improvements in their house and they've spent money on it, they love to show it. Why not? If I spend $100,000 on improvements in my house, I don't want to not have anybody see it. I want people to see it. So
yeah, that's beautiful. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. If you can get to the house, it's wonderful. So great. Any other questions? Thank you, Parisa. And all you have to do is type your little script on a card until you've got it nailed, right? Until you've got it nailed. And then you say it the same way every time, right? That's a system. All right.
All right.
And I think there was one more question that came in. Cold texting. Okay, I got a question about cold texting. We don't have any laws yet against cold texting. I'm sure there will be. The Federal Regulations Bureau, Communications Bureau will end up coming in with some sort of do not text law. We don't have those at this time. However, I'm sure there will be some legislation that will govern texting. Now, remember, if you have a client that's already in your database, you totally can text them. You already have a relationship with them, okay? But if it's a cold text, I typically don't cold text. I'll text to people that are already into the database, people that have already been getting stuff from me.
Right.
All right. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. We're looking forward to next week. We're going to put this on paper, and it's going to turn into a real schedule that's going to make you a lot of money. Until next time, see you all.
Thank you. Have
Thank
a
you,
good day.
Veronica. Thank you, Veronica.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Veronica. Thank you, Sonia.
Bye. Thank you. Have a good day.